Azure Cosmos DB TV. I'm Mark Brown. I've got with me a special guest, Chander Dhall. Chander, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We're going to talk about something that's really insanely cool. This new kind of Gen AI pattern called voice RAG, which everybody knows what RAG is by now. This is basically RAG using voice. I just got the update, or I don't know when it got on my phone, but now ChatGPT talks to me, which is great because I get to talk to it rather than just typing in with my thumbs, because I tend to mistype stuff, although ChatGPT is pretty forgiving. But super convenient and a very natural way to interact with a large language model, and an even more cooler way to do RAG pattern interacting with a large language model. So I understand that there was a sample that was created by a friend of ours, Pablo Castro. He runs the AI search team, and he kind of showed how you could do this voice RAG and implemented it. Talk about that, if you would, just for a sec, because so he built his using, of course, AI search to do the voice RAG in there. You guys did something a little different, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, Pablo's got this very cool open source project that works with Azure AI Search and Azure, as well as OpenAI GPT-4 real-time API for audio, where you could ask it any questions whatsoever on the documents that you can pass. And basically, it's a bunch of PDF documents, as you can see, and it works with it on Azure AI Search. Now, what we ended up doing was decided to use Azure Cosmos DB, and we ended up using Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB vCore, as well as also the NoSQL API, and made it work with quantized flat as well as disk ANN, and it's been terrific. It's great answers. So I'd love to show you today.
I'd love to see it. This sounds cool. Yeah. So how do you want to do it? Should we just kind of show folks? Oh, there you go. You got it. Yeah, walk us through this thing.
So since, it's like we can just take it as we go. Maybe we start with the capabilities. So for example, I can ask it questions about, hey, give me a greeting in multiple different languages, and then I can get deep into the data I gave it, which is a bunch of PDF files, and how it can respond to answers from multiple different files, if that's good with you.
That sounds cool. Let's do it.
Perfect. Maybe I'll probably have you go on mute, if that's okay with you.
All right. Yeah.
Just to make sure we do not confuse the AI. What I love about this is it's real time, but at the same time, it picks voices from every single place. So let's get started. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing great. We have listeners from all over the world. Can you do greetings in 5 different languages, please? Can you say hi in 5 different languages?
Of course, here are greetings in 5 different languages. French, bonjour. German, hello. Palo, konnichiwa. 4, Portuguese, hola. Привет.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Could you do Japanese, Chinese, and Hindi?
Certainly. Japanese, konnichiwa. Mandarin Chinese, ni hao. Hindi, namaste. These are common ways to say hello in each language.
That's great. Now I speak Hindi. However, I would like to ask you about Perks Plus program.
Sure. What would you like to know about the Perks Plus program? It's a comprehensive benefits program supporting health and wellness with up to $1,000 in reimbursements for fitness-related expenses.
And what all is included in the program?
The Perks Plus program includes reimbursements for a variety of activities: gym memberships, personal training sessions, yoga and Pilates classes, fitness equipment, sports team fees, health retreats and spas, outdoor adventure activities, group fitness classes, and virtual fitness programs. It also covers lessons like skiing, scuba diving, surfing, and horseback riding.
That's amazing. Can you tell me if surfing or karate is covered?
Yes, Perks Plus covers a variety of fitness activities, including surfing lessons and group fitness classes like karate.
And do you know if judo is covered?
Yes, judo would likely be covered under Perks Plus, as it falls under group fitness classes or martial arts, which are included in the program.
All right, can you explain to me what all is covered in Hindi?
पर्क्स प्लस कार्यक्रम में कई चीजें शामिल हैं, जैसे जिम सदस्यता, व्यक्तिगत प्रशिक्षण सत्र, योग और पिलेटिस कक्षाएं, खेल टीम शुल्क, स्वास्थ्य वापसी और स्पा।
Wow.
साहसिक गतिविधियां।
Why don't you tell me what's included in Perks Plus program in Japanese?
Perks Plus 프로그램은요, 짐のメンバーシップ、パーソナルトレーニング、ヨガやピラティスのクラス。
How about Spanish?
En el programa Perks Plus se incluyen membresías de gimnasio, sesiones de entrenamiento personal, clases de yoga y pilates, compra de equipamiento de fitness.
Oh, wow. Tell me something about Contoso Electronics Northwind Health Plus plan.
The Northwind Health Plus plan from Contoso Electronics offers comprehensive coverage for medical, vision, and dental services. It includes prescription drugs, mental health, substance abuse, preventive care, and emergency services, both in-network and out-of-network. You can choose from various in-network providers, including primary care physicians, specialists, hospitals, and pharmacies.
Can you tell me something about continuity of care? Can you tell me something about continuity of care?
Continuity of care is the ability to see the same healthcare provider for all your medical needs, from routine checkups to specialized care. This allows you to develop a relationship with your doctor, who can better recognize changes in your health and provide personalized care. Contoso's Northwind Standard Plan supports this by allowing you to stay with the same provider throughout your healthcare journey.
What are the exceptions to balance billing protection?
Exceptions to balance billing protection include services from out-of-network providers, certain services like cosmetic services and experimental procedures, emergency services, mental health and substance abuse coverage. If you receive care from out-of-network
Can you tell me the
providers-
exceptions in Chinese Mandarin?
在平衡账单保护方面，有一些例外情况，包括使用非网络内的提供者、某些服务，如美容服务和实验性程序，以及心理健康和药物滥用覆盖。如果您从非网络内提供者处接受库里，您可能需要承担允许金额和账单金额之间的差额。了解是否适用平衡账单保护，务必查询你。
What are the in-network and out-of-network costs?
In-network costs are typically lower because the providers have agreed to pre-negotiated rates with your insurance plan. Out-of-network costs are higher as these providers do not have agreements with your insurer, meaning you may be responsible for the difference between the provider's charge and what your insurance covers. It's important to check with your insurance for specific costs.
Can you tell me something about performance reviews at Contoso Electronics?
At Contoso Electronics, performance reviews are conducted annually. They involve a discussion between you and your supervisor about your performance over the past year, feedback on areas for improvement, your goals for the upcoming year. These reviews are a two-way dialogue where you are encouraged to be open and honest. The goal is to provide constructive feedback to help you grow in your role.
What do I do if I have questions or concerns?
If you have questions or concerns, it's best to speak directly with your supervisor or HR representative. They can provide guidance and Support. You understand company policies, resolve issues, or answer any questions you have about your role, benefits.
What if I have questions or concerns about privacy? Who do I contact?
If you have questions or concerns about privacy on Toso Electronics, you should contact the HR department or your company's privacy officer.
Of course, that's boilerplate answer right there. You got a problem, go talk to HR. In there. This thing's impressive. It's obviously well grounded to the data in there. I love this thing that just translates stuff on the fly. I mean, talk about a write once, run everywhere. Write your policies in whatever language you'd want, and ChatGPT will translate them for you into whatever language. So if you're a multinational company, yeah, it's fine. We got one single source of truth, although I'm sure I know policies obviously vary by geo, but at least you could have a corpus of knowledge and information like that, and then make that accessible to anybody in any language, and not just for internal policies. It could be anything in there. So this is impressive. And I love the fact this thing just will like literally real-time translate. In fact, I use that similar API from ChatGPT, and I do live translation with my mother-in-law who doesn't speak English. So it's impressive stuff, I have to say, and it does a really good job. And I don't mind throwing Google under the bus once in a while, but I was using Google to do translation, and I get these really confused looks from my mother-in-law. She's like, "I have no idea what you're saying." or what your phone is saying. And then I started using this to do it when I realized I could do this voice RAG, or basically these live translations, and it's like night and day. So the models are really well done. And this is really cool what you built. You want to let's talk about what you did here and kind of how this thing works. I think people want to see it.
Absolutely. And, I share the same with you. One of the best things about technology is I've made friends all over the world, but, now that connection is going to a completely different level because we can talk to them. And, what I envision this for our enterprise customers worldwide is imagine having the solution once on your website, and it doesn't matter what language the person speaks, that person can get all their answers right there that they need to get with someone that sounds exactly like a human and is there for you 24/7. So I'm happy to show you what we ended up doing. And one of the best resources is if you go to just our technical blog, you can look at the AI voice assistant. This one is with Azure Cosmos DB, NoSQL API. And the second one is Voice RAG, which happens to be with Azure Cosmos DB, MongoDB vCore, basically the Mongo API. And if you have a look at it, it explains to you every single thing that has been done, also explains to you in detail how you can use that information to create something on your own. At the same time, the code is open source. So if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see there's a GitHub link that I can show you. It's right here with the README, and you can follow the instructions, make it work on your own as long as you have Azure OpenAI or as well as Azure Cosmos DB. And then there's also a sample demo just in case. Now, without wasting any time, I know all our tech friends love to see the code. So I'd just like to show you the code real quick. Why don't we go over the structure real quick and just see what it is. So this is Pablo's code. And as you can see, you've got the data in the data folder, and this could be anything, by the way.
Yeah.
So the way this code works right now is anything in the data folder, as long as it's a PDF, it's going to take it, it's going to generate, first of all, it's going to take the text out, then it'll create the Azure embeddings, in the sense Azure OpenAI embeddings, and you can pick and choose whichever model you like. Next, it will now push it to the database, which in this case happens to be Azure Cosmos DB. And then, of course, we're going to use it for retrieval. If you look at the structure, it's fairly simple. You've got the app in here, and then you've got the script in here just to load your program. And if you are using Windows, you can use PowerShell. And for Mac people, you've got the ZSH scripts here. And of course, here where the app is, you've got the backend as well as the front end. The front end, as you saw, is just one page with just one button. It's a very simple React front end framework and your node module just get created by the script that's right here, as you can see. So you don't have to do much work. It takes care of that for you. So it's a fairly simple front end that I don't think we need to get into.
Here's just like a button with a microphone on it. Yeah, that's not going to throw anybody for a loop. I'm curious, and I'd love to see this code you guys did here with implementing Mongo as the store on this thing. I'd love to see the voice API, what those requests look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the app happens to be barely just the setup, as you can see. And you might have noticed I just hard coded this line. You don't have to. You can get every single thing from environment, and we already have that code over there. And even if you comment this, it would work, no problem whatsoever. So now you've got your environment set up. That's it. You've got all the key value pairs from your env file. Next, you see you've got this middleware, which is something we didn't really change much of, except we just added plumbing for the Mongo connection string, the database name. All of this is Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB vCore and the collection name, and that's it. Now, all the meat is in this one file. I just wanted to keep it simple. Definitely not production level code, but it's very easy to understand. As you can see, we've got LangChain right here. So you can use it with any models you want, and LangChain would handle that for you. Of course, we've got Azure OpenAI embeddings imported from LangChain. And then we've got the Azure Cosmos DB vector search, which we were very, very happy to see that very quickly. Not only Azure Cosmos DB has support in their native APIs, they also had support in LangChain, which makes it so easy for us to start using this out of the box. Then we got the document loaders, and we use a PDF plumber, which basically is behind the scenes LangChain creating a wrapper for PDF plumber, which is another Python library that will basically take your PDF data and get you the text. Now, we're using function tooling, which is exactly the same way as Pablo's original code has. So what you can see is there's two tools here. One is the search tool that basically searches the knowledge base, and you can see the description here. And if the knowledge base is in English, translate to and from English. If needed, results are formatted as a source name first in square brackets, followed by text and a line at the end of each result. Now, after this, you get a search query, which you might have noticed right here is the search query. So I may give it a long sentence like, I want you to tell me something about this, this, and this. It really doesn't care. It's going to give you a really small search query, which means something for the internal grounding tool, which is right here. So the grounding tool tells us, by the way, I'm going to get you this data, and I'm giving you this data from only document 1 in this case. If it happens to be multiple documents, it will do that too. But really, this is very important for our enterprise customers who want to tell you the source of the document. For example, if you want to know what your benefit programs looks like, you don't want to go to the HR every single time. We've got customers with hundreds of thousands of employees. Now, it's so easy for them to just go to this tool and know, all right, you answer my question, but I want to read the document. Good news is it tells you where the document is, and you can always, give them the link to the document.
Yeah.
Next, see, sorry, by the way, any questions so far?
No, it makes total sense.
Perfect. And, this is very typical, and you can do it any which way. This is like, we did it very quickly. At the end of the day, it's basically getting all the documents, and we got a chunk size of just 1,000 because it works with pretty much every single context limit that you have out there. When we started coding, context limits used to be 4,000. Now it is 128,000. So it's got easier, but 1,000 is a pretty good size. We got a chunk overlap of 250. Over here, as you can see, it goes for every single file in the directory. And then any file that ends with a PDF, it starts processing that file, uses the PDF plumber to load it into the LangChain loader. That does most of the work for you. We use character text splitter, which is the most common text splitter. And the reason we do the overlap is because every single chunk of 1,000 tokens has to have some overlap to make it easy for the LLM, right? This will reduce hallucinations. It's actually very important. A lot of times you may not get answers just because there was no overlap. So we highly recommend having an overlap of at least 20% or 25%. So in this case, we chose 250, but you could easily do 200, probably get the same exact answer. Once you're done, you load all the documents. And of course, when you have all these documents, we're adding one more field to it, which is the title and the file name, because we want that to be returned down the line. So that's it. So we got extracted text. And here is where we are chunking the text. So that's just one line of code, and you got the chunking that's used inside this function, which is extract text from PDF. Of course, this is just one line of code to initialize your Mongo client. And here is your vector search, which again, since we're using LangChain, that is supporting Azure Cosmos DB, is just one line of code that will do the similarity search for you. And this is where, remember, if you look at the top, I was showing you the function calling that was describing these functions. Now, this is where we implemented those functions, and they're very similar to the functions of the original code, except now it works for Azure Cosmos DB vector store, which has been passed right here. And once you get the data, you enumerate through it, and you return the data you want to return the way you want to return. And by the way, we're saying title, you can have anything you want. You can add anything. It's just plain JSON. Whatever it is that your business wants, you can add it right here, and that's it. So as you can see, the true result being responded. Sorry.
When you're generating the embeddings, does the embeddings API take a wave, or does the voice come in, get converted into text, and then get sent as a basically serialized and then embedding generated?
So one of the really cool things about this API is that you do it two ways, in the sense, when you look at this API, right, this is actually the only API so far that has no text to it. Because when you're using the OpenAI API, it's 100% voice first. If you take the competition, what they do is they get the text and then they convert it over, and that's how it's working. And now imagine you have native voice. What we're doing is plumbing it the other way around. So what we're doing is on the query side, we have text, and then we're giving it that text, and it now translates that part. And that's why the only reason you'll see the slowness somewhere is if you have a bulk of the text on our side. If you just go with the voice, the result's going to be extremely fast because it's native voice. And that's the genius about OpenAI solution over any other competitive solution that we've tried so far. None of them have this capability so far.
It's all service side, basically. So embeddings, voice, completions, in and out, voice. I mean, it's exactly the way to do it, because you're right. Every time you got to make another call, it's just adding more latency to the whole pipeline. So why not? That makes total sense. Then man, the simplicity of this just must be amazing.
And this is the cool thing, right? So it took me a couple of hours to build a solution. And keep in mind, this has function calling. This is on your own data, and there's so much more involved than the same thing would have taken us a week to do just 2 years ago when GPT-3 was around, right? I think a lot of people started using this after ChatGPT was launched, but we as a company have been using this since 2019. And I'm just saying, even 2 years ago, this will take a week, and now it's like 2 hours to get this solution out. And by the way, I mean, if you look at the function calling, right? I mean, it's done a very good job because at the end of the day, we're still passing a text on the way out, but it takes it very nicely and responds exactly like a human would, with emotions in the voice. And that's why the native voice solution works way better than something that would be text to voice, because that wouldn't have all that as part of it. And that's why
that's the way you did it. Even a year ago, it was text to speech. Like, I did a demo at Ignite last year, and I talked to that thing, and I was using the AI, the Azure speech service to interact with it. This was using the bring your own data thing that was in the Azure AI Studio thing when they did the Mongo integration, or our Cosmos Mongo integration. I flipped on, but that was using the speech service, and the latency on that was, it wasn't horrible, but it was still, it wasn't quite that natural. There was still that uncomfortable pause that happened in there. And, it's because of exactly what you're saying. Like, you got to make multiple hops to go from speech to text, serialize that, vectorize it, get it back, and then do the RAG pattern query, get that back, plumb that back through text to speech, and then back out through your speaker. So that's a lot of hopping going on there. This is just great. I can't wait to get my hands on this stuff.
And by the way, I mean, that was a great demo a year ago. That was amazing, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I love about this field, is like, we look back to saying, oh, that wasn't great, but at that time it was amazing. And by the way, just imagine what happens 6 months or 1 year from now. It'll be light years worth of work done. in that time frame and improvements. And I love this.
Yeah, it's going to tell me stuff I don't want to know.
Another thing, right? So here's your grounding tool. And as you can see, it's not a lot of code. At the end of the day, all it's doing is getting the list of the sources that we use to get it out and list it right here. So that's it. And that's where you're getting the valid sources. You've done the similarity search. And then, if you couldn't get the title as we had added the title, then of course it'll say unknown title because that's the default. But otherwise, you will have the exact title and you'll have the document, you've got the content, metadata, every single thing. And by the way, you can add anything more you like. At the end of the day, what I love about Azure Cosmos DB is it's amazingly fast. At the same time, it's extremely flexible. And that's why I love it, because you need those latencies. This is one of the things where it shines, and I would not want to do it with a lot of other databases that will slow you down. So that's another advantage. That's at the same time, we've added even 12 properties, and we haven't seen anything in terms of performance that actually went lower. And that's why I would encourage you to try other things that you would like to add that are good for your business. And again, that's back the tool result, and that's where the bulk of the two function calling that we did, which was search as well as report grounding tool, got covered. These are just implementations of it. And then of course, these are just supporting methods that, to check if the index exists, if the vector store is empty, and all the stuff. And now finally, you're attaching all these RAG tools. If you remember, going back to app, this is where we attach the RAG tool. So if you want to change it to something else, that's where you're going to have to do it. And then if you go back to what we're doing here, simply initializing your Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB vCore client. And then we've got the Azure OpenAI embeddings. As you can see, by the way, you can use whatever you like. In this particular case, we're using the latest ones. We've tried the small as well as the large one. We've done text data embedding 3. You can make it work with 2. Bottom line, it's completely up to you. This is what I like about Azure AI Studio is I get to choose the models I want, and I can change them any given point of time without having to change anything but just a single line of code in the env file. And then of course, here's we haven't really changed anything. This is the name that Pablo chose, Contoso index. That's our vector store. And if the index doesn't exist, you will create it from scratch. Here is where using HNSW, as you know, that is definitely a very powerful, I would say, way to get indexes and better results, sometimes even better than IVF. It gets a little bit, it's a little bit more on the memory. So it does a great job. And these are pretty much default values where numlist is 100, dimension is pretty standard, 1536, cosine similarity, M is 16 and 64. One thing I do like about Azure Cosmos DB Mongo vCore is not a lot of MongoDB implementations actually let you change these values. So I love the flexibility as a developer that I get to change these values, which is interesting because a lot of others would prioritize recall over something like this. And what happens is they have really slow latencies. And in some cases, they take a lot less requests per second. In our research, we found out that in some cases it's 8 to 10x advantage just on the request per second with Azure Cosmos DB, MongoDB vCore, and also on latency. Sometimes you can get 8 to 10x advantage. So if you put it both together, that's 64 to 100x advantage, just because we have the flexibility of being able to change these values. So as a developer, I mean, it's pretty big for me.
Like I'm reporting a Mongo vCore sample I wrote over a year ago, and that was using 8 to 2, and that dimension size was 1536. Anyway, I wanted to upgrade it to, and it was using GPT 3.5. I wanted to upgrade it to GPT 4.0, and I wanted to use text 3 large. Well, I started running it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not getting any results. And I realized, the default dimension size is 3072. I already had things baked in for 1536, but I'm like, okay, actually, that's too. So I thought about it, and I'm like, there's no way I'm re-encoding all my data for 30 for that size. That's insane. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to just drop down to 256. So it's going to keep the files way smaller. It's going to be actually just fine. It's a sample, it's a demo. But I had to upgrade all the packages in there because all the old OpenAI V1s wouldn't let you specify the dimensions. for any of the embedding generation in there. And I'm like, yeah. So I ended up ripping that whole time. But that's the thing I love is what you're saying is being able to specify that whatever you encode your stuff at 1536, great, or 256, great, or you want to use 3,000 dimensions for your document or your item, fine. You know, it could be whatever it is you need. So, all right, enough talking for me.
Oh, no, I mean, I definitely hear you. Look, we've got clients that easily have terabytes of data, and in many cases, even if you have a client that has a multiple terabytes of data systems in their company, a lot of these Fortune 500 clients of ours, they have petabytes of data. So it looks good when you're on your machine, but once you have to think about putting it out in production and changing all of that, I mean, it's a task that could go on. Take a lot of time. So I think the flexibility is very, very important. That's what we have here. And that's what I love because it makes our life so much easier. And we understand what it takes to go from, one to another, how much work that can be. But this is why this is such a much better architecture, as well as the database takes care of all this for us. And we love the flexibility. And then finally, here's where we create the new index, as you can see. And keep in mind, right, you got to push everything that you have. Now you got the documents, you got the embeddings, and we say OpenAI embeddings, but really in this case it is Azure OpenAI embeddings with the same OpenAI models behind the scenes. You've got the collection and you got the index name, and this is where you create the index. And one of the things to keep in mind is when you start working on it, you definitely want to go to MongoDB Compass or whatever tool you're using or Azure tools to make sure that your index actually exists. So only start querying when the index actually exists. And just make sure, because a lot of times what we've noticed is we'll see developers that have done every single thing, and then for whatever reason this gets either missed or something is wrong, and you actually don't have the index, and then they get the results they don't like, and they go that, oh, the technology isn't good. Well, as you can see, I mean, we got amazing answers here, and accuracy was pretty high, so the technology does work.
Oh yeah. This is cool.
And then, you've got this for if you have this already existing, I mean, we take care of that aspect, and it's pretty much just the if else statement for, yes, it didn't exist, so you do this. If it existed, you do that, and that's it. So that's it. That's all the code is.
Yeah. So simple. It's just so rich in what it can do. I mean, that was awesome. I think you translate back and forth to employees, reading a manual, reading the same manual, getting it in their native language. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Chander, you always just surprise with how cool the stuff is you guys create.
Thank you.
You guys did a blog post on this. Was this the one you were showing earlier?
Yes.
Voice Rag blog. I wanted to put that up for people there. I think earlier you showed the kind of the homepage of the whole thing. There it is. And that walked everybody through step by step on this, and also where they can get the source on this and try it out. And you said you got 2 flavors now, right? You got a Cosmos for Mongo, vCore, and then you guys just rolled out a NoSQL one that's both the quantized flat and disk ANN. Is that right?
Absolutely. So what I would definitely do is, if you want to pick one of these blog posts to read, you should definitely read this one first. This is the one we just came out with a day ago. Now, keep in mind, if you end up at VoiceRag, completely okay, just click this link and it'll take you right here. The reason I say that is if you've really never done this earlier, and you want to understand everything in detail, this is a very detailed blog post. And it, of course, links back to the other blog post. You can read that one too. And then you got the demo right there. And at the end of it, you have every single line of source code. So if you just want to go to the source code, you can just click that link, go to GitHub. You got a complete README. If you have any issues, let us know, and we will definitely get a result for you, hopefully, in the next few days.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's better. That's better support than I give on my repost. But you guys are
all right. Let's say a couple of months.
Yeah, issues going back years. Chander, this is amazing. I just love this stuff. I mean, I love my job, and I love seeing cool stuff from folks like you. So thanks for sharing. And I'll put that. You had the Cazton.com blogs technical /voice rag. That's this one right here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the place I can start.
Yeah. Either of the two is fine.
All
Yeah.
right.
So voice.
Either way,
that's
you're going to
easy.
get there,
Mhm.
learn about the tech, learn about all of it, go get the bits in there, give us a try, and then reach out to Chander and the team if you got any questions or whatever. So right on. This is cool. Thanks for coming on. And man, I can't wait to see. I don't know. It's can't wait to see what else you do.
Well, thank you so much for building great products, and thank you for having us. Love to come here and share more as we get better.
Absolutely. And by the way, so speaking of great products, I wanted to share something. Well, this isn't a great product, but Chander, your thing up on your blog there and on the repo. I'm also, we've now got a new samples gallery here. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I just wanted to show folks our samples gallery in here. There are 92 different samples within here, and you've got things like architecture. There's a whole ton of stuff on generative AI. And by the way, in fact, if I type in voice in here, here is your voice rag sample. So this gallery is all about samples from the community or from Microsoft as well. But I got your sample up right here. So folks can come to our Cosmos DB gallery. Let me put, wrong one. I can put the link up right there, aka.ms/AzureCosmosDB/gallery. And they can find Chander's sample there, or just go to Chander's website. That's probably simpler. But you could go and find this and a whole host of other samples in there as well, all in C# and Python. We even got Java samples in here as well to do Gen AI and other stuff as well, and lots of cool tools and data migration and all that stuff. So that's it. Chander, thank you once again for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. And thank you, folks, for joining us. We'll see you next week on Azure Cosmos DB TV. So that's it for this time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.